How do you grow a value-based business? It's not easy. Today on The Culture Hack, I've got John Wiehler. He's the president and CEO of Wiehler, and he's going to tell us exactly how he did it and how he's been successful. So come check it out on The Culture Hack. Hey, it's Adam here, and you're watching The Culture Hack, where we're talking about how to create engaged workspaces that unlock the potential of your teams and drive your business forward in ways you've never seen. So stay tuned. John Wiehler, welcome to The Culture Hack. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh, great to be here.
If you missed the last episode, we talked about legacy and how John's dad started the company and passed it on to John, and this idea of passing on those values. And now I'd really like to talk about kind of what happened. You had a company, it was just you and your dad, and then boom, you grow it and you pass on this idea and these values and this culture. So, you know, where'd you start? What happened?
I think at a certain point in time, I got to about a staff of 10. And I started losing control, like quite a bit. I was coming in, I didn't know what was happening in the field, and I wasn't on top of the office, and I was really tied between two different places. I was taking phone calls from staff. I was assuming, or from staff and clients, I was assuming that I had to be everywhere, and I just couldn't. And it was that first time I really came into that moment of like, well, like I need help. And I hired a supervisor and a bookkeeper almost at the same time. Okay. And that was really that first time where I was like, wow. I took a step back and I recognized that we were providing better service to more clients than I was when I was smaller. And it was humbling, right, to recognize that other people who worked for me were delivering better quality, more consistent service and better communication than I was.
Interesting. So by doing less, you actually did more.
For my clients,
yeah,
right? And that my clients were happier with me, and I was doing less. I was doing less for them, but doing more. And it was very perplexing, right? Coming from that small family business where everybody called me, everybody called my dad.
Yeah. Well, you know, we talked a little bit last episode about this idea that, you know, your greatest strength, these values of these long-term relationships and really helping these people and building that. And it evolving into something new.
Yeah.
Right? And now the new thing is, it's not you, it's Wiehler, right? It's the company providing that service. How did your clients, how was it for them during this period?
I think clients really struggle with the transition of having a primary point of contact or like a reliable person at whatever company that they deal with. And that's their person that they trust. Like, in the mechanical business, we deal with like sheet metal, we deal with water, gas, like all the stuff that is behind walls. So when mistakes happen, they're generally found right towards the end, and the impact on the other trades with drywall or millwork or damage, it's big. So what I notice with clients is that there's a strong level of like apprehension when the comments are going, well, I'm not gonna be the guy who comes to site for this site meeting. It's going to be Dallas, let's say. And you can see like, well, John, like, I don't want Dallas, I want you. And at the time, I think it was very difficult because I definitely didn't have the same level of emotional intelligence to understand what they were going through in that. But I think with the benefit of hindsight, it's really starting to look at that, what the client's experiencing and navigating that transition through with them, right? Hey, your business is growing, right? You have more needs. I can't meet those directly, but we can as businesses. What things do I provide you that provide you the most value and comfort? And really taking the time to listen, and then making sure that transition's more smooth. And it's not done kind of like in the background on our end, and then the client sees it. It's more like that transition with the client and more consistent check-ins. I think you need to be very empathetic, right? I need to be very empathetic for our clients when we start transitioning new people into those roles because of the risk that our clients take on for the projects that we work with them on.
That like follow up, that connection, I can almost imagine someone new goes, but then you call up, you're like, hey Sandy, like just want to make sure you were good, and that, you know, like now they feel like, okay, right?
Yep. And having those conversations with the new guy who they're experiencing, so that they get to see it, because there's three people who are involved in that transition, right? It's our client, it's the new staff member coming into a role, like the big shoes to fill, and then it's also like that leader like kind of taking a back step, still being involved, but not as more of that, like that fundamental level.
Right.
I think and a lot of relationships are lost during that time, right? Like relationships with staff can be lost because it's too much pressure. Relationship with clients can be lost because we don't meet their needs anymore. And then just really like learning how to navigate that in a very like what are your concerns, what are my concerns, what are their concerns? How do we deal with that together?
Right. Well, and I think, we talked a little bit about this idea of how personal that is. So like you as the business owner, what do you want? Do you want to just stay at that 10 people and like service this number, or do you want to service more? And what's the cost of that? And how is that going to change? And what's that going to mean for all these relationships? Right.
And that's a big one. I'll definitely say like one area that I believe is really separated myself as far as like a leader goes within our industry is I am steadfastly client focused. If my clients' goals are to grow, I'll grow with them. Right? How big do they want to get? And I will do my absolute best to structure the company in a way that supports their growth. And then conversely, I'll take a look at my staff and ask them, well, how big do they want to get? Some people are really happy just doing plumbing or just doing sheet metal. And that's awesome. Like I celebrate anybody who's happy in their career. And then there's other people like, well, I want to do more. Like, John, I want your job.
Right.
Well, all right. How do we get you to my job? And then start to marry those concepts of, well, I got a growing client and I got a guy who wants my job. I got a journeyman who wants to be a supervisor. I want a supervisor who wants to be a project manager. I want a project manager who wants to run a division, right? And how do we grow that in a non-competitive environment so it's not pitting our staff against each other? And I think that's that really neat part is for me to separate that none of it's about me. It's about listening to my client. It's about listening to my staff and seeing if I can help position them to help each other.
Well, and that idea of building that culture, right? Like if it's about you from your position, then you will attract the type of people that maybe want that competitive environment or thrive in that.
Yeah.
Or they'll react in a certain way versus if it's about something bigger than us, our values of customer service, our long term, then that's something maybe more exciting to be a part of.
And we see a lot of that when our staff get a chance to see when they start working on houses and the clients are talking to them, they're like, oh yeah, I remember when Marty did this.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there going, who's Marty? And the guy's like, Marty Wheeler, like he's the guy who started the company. And like, really? I didn't know that. And we start to see these connections that get built and that so many of our staff now get to experience that benefit, like when times are a little bit slow, because our business, especially in the retail side, is very weather-based. If it's very hot, we sell air conditioners. If it's cold, we fix furnaces or sell furnaces.
Yeah.
But in seasonal, like when it's 5 degrees outside, nobody calls. And what our staff get to see is that long-term relationship on trust with a consistent client base. Now our staff get to go do preventative maintenance and service calls with clients who trust us because we've provided that long-term service value back to them. And then that reinforces for our staff that the work that they do today matters for the future.
Right.
As opposed to, well, it's just a today thing, it's just transactional. Nothing we do is transactional.
Right. You don't want to be just that emergency call. You want to be like, hey, like your furnace is due. I recommend people trust you, so go on out. Like,
yep.
Right? Better to replace the furnace when it's plus 10 than when it's minus 20.
Yeah. And then for our staff to recognize that when they're thorough, when they connect with the client, when they're not trying to sell something to the client because they need money today, but they are doing their best to meet the client's like short, medium, and long-term needs, that the benefit for them is stability. And because it really is about marrying the concerns of the client, marrying the concerns of the staff, and the concerns of the company that can provide long-term stable growth for everybody.
Amazing. Well, I really want to get into maybe some stories of this customer service or some of these trickier problems that you've had to deal with. So stay tuned to next episode. But in the meantime, how do people get a hold of Wiehler if they?
I think the best way to do it is through our website, Wiehler.ca. It doesn't matter how you spell it, you're going to find us, but it is WIEHLER.ca.
Okay, fantastic. We'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for watching The Culture Hack. Do you want to chat culture and engagement? Give us a call and come on the show.